You want to know how I turned $5,000 into $75,000 and how you can do the same and do it over and over and over again? Stay tuned and I'll teach you how. Hey, what's up guys? My name is Graylan Stewart. I am an entrepreneur and a virtual wholesaler, but just a real estate investor in general, okay? So my channel, if you're new to it, it's all about wholesaling real estate. But also, aside from wholesaling real estate, I am an investor as well. So we do buy and hold properties to where we sell those on rent to own typically. And we also do fix and flips and hotels and novations and lots of different things as far as investing in real estate goes, okay? But our main priority on this channel and in my actual business is to wholesale real estate, okay? Wholesaling real estate is literally the cash flow ATM that funds all of my other projects that I do in business and in personal life for that matter, okay? So let's get into it. Today's video is about how I turned $5,000, literally $5,000 into $75,000. And I've done it 8 or 9 times now already. And you can do the same thing, okay? So let's get into it. I'll tell you exactly how I do it. So really it all starts with a mobile home, okay? And I know mobile homes are not sexy. They're not glamorous. You know, it's trailer trash and all these other things that you have out there. All these, you know, negative stipulations. But you know what? All I care about is the cash flow, right? So mobile homes provide cash flow, and that's what I love, okay? If you're really getting into real estate, wholesaling is the easiest way to get started, but you got to start thinking about your future pretty soon, you know, pretty early on, which when I first started, I had the end in mind right away, okay? I knew wholesaling real estate would kind of fund that and get me going, but my end goal was to have passive income to where I'm bringing in mailbox money forever and ever, okay? All right, so here's exactly how I did it. So I bought a mobile home, okay? I bought this mobile home off of Facebook Marketplace, believe it or not. There's tons of deals out there everywhere, okay? So people are always trying to get rid of mobile homes. Now, there's 2 types of mobile homes, okay? There's mobile homes in a park to where you have to pay park lot rent. And there's also mobile homes on land, okay? Now, I'm not picky. I'll take either one. But the way you're going to get them super cheap is the ones that are in parks. And that's the ones that some investors honestly stay away from, which I'm the opposite. I'd rather have a mobile home in a park as opposed to land. Now the difference is the mobile home in a park is a depreciating asset and it's not considered real estate, okay? Because it's literally a home that you can move. It's just a piece of property, just like your car. It's treated very much the same because you have a tag and a title just like a car would have, as opposed to a title on a house like actual real estate has. Now, if you have a mobile home on actual land, that could be treated either way depending on how they did it. But a lot of times that's considered real estate because it's tied to the land as long as it's sold as one parcel, okay? So the biggest difference, that's it right there. You got land with a mobile home and you've got a park with a mobile home, okay? Now, I prefer parks, and let me tell you why. So typically when people are getting rid of a mobile home, they're doing it because they're motivated in some form or fashion, just like any other motivated seller, right? So a lot of times they're just moving away, or maybe they ended up renting a house or an apartment because they didn't want to be in the mobile home anymore, probably because it needed too many repairs or different things like that. So nevertheless, whatever the reason is irrelevant, okay? The point is they typically will sell those really cheap because they got lot rent coming up on the first, okay? Now, I invest in Oklahoma City area only. Well, Oklahoma in general, I guess. I can't really say Oklahoma City anymore because I do own in 9 or 10 counties in Oklahoma, different properties throughout the state. So, but my point is, you can get mobile homes really cheap typically because they always have lot rent coming up, and that's what they can't afford, especially if a lot of times they've already moved out or they've already committed to moving somewhere else, so they've already put a deposit down or whatever, and they typically can't afford a few $100s extra every month. If they can, it's not for very long. After a couple of months, that's killing them, right? So that's where we come into play, okay? We could solve that problem for them by taking that over, and usually at a very cheap price. I've literally bought a mobile home to where somebody was asking $15,000 at the beginning, and I ended up buying it for $2,000, simply because I was their only option, right? I already know going into it, it's a depreciating asset. So why would I pay $15,000 for that, right? It doesn't make sense to me as an investor, but it does make sense if I can get that property for a couple $1,000s, fix it up, and then sell it on rent to own and collect that mailbox money for 10, 15, 20 years, however long you want to do your mortgage, right? So here's exactly how I did it. The very first deal I ever did as far as mobile homes go, I bought this mobile home for $2,000 from a lady, and she was literally asking $15,000 at first. I talked her down to $2,000 because I'm like, hey, I'm ready to buy it for $2,000. I can bring you the money tomorrow if that's what you want to do, but there's no way I'm ever going to get close to your number. But if you want to stop the bleeding to where you don't have responsibility for the lot rent anymore and those kind of things, then I'm your guy, right? So she did call me back a few days later because that was true. She already had another house that she was paying for that she already moved into, and she had a $450 lot rent coming up on the first, and she already had done that one time. She didn't want to have to do it again, so she could take a couple $1,000 from me and save almost $500 a few days later by not having to pay lot rent. And so that's what she did. I solved her problem. I actually bought the property. Now this was a 2014 mobile home, okay, and this was back in the end of 2019, I believe. So it was a couple of years ago. So the property was only 4 or 5 years old, right? The actual mobile home. So it was really nice. I ended up replacing the carpet and doing some minor repairs, a little bit on the roof, just some little things, right? I spent, less than $5,000 total, but we'll just call it five to make it easy numbers. But I honestly, on that property, I probably ended up spending $3,500 to $4,000 to tell you the truth. But here's what I did. So I sold that. So I bought it for $5,000. I'm all in for $5,000, right? After I fixed it up, new flooring, everything. Now I put this on Facebook Marketplace as rent to own property, and I was selling it for $38,000. Okay. So, and again, to make it easy math, let's just call it $35,000. Okay. Now I use a tool in my rent to own business that's super valuable to me. It's called a 10B2 calculator. Okay. Let me see if I can actually show you what it looks like. I'm not sure if you can see that on screen or not, but there's the property right there, or the actual icon, 10B2. It's a 10B2 calculator. I use that almost every day because I have so many properties, and I only go rent to own way because that's what I choose to do, to where I'm actually the bank. I don't do the lease option exit strategy. I just do to where, hey, I want to be your bank. You just make payments to me. I'm your bank, and everybody's happy, right? So that's what I did on this property. I sold it on rent to own. So let's call it $35,000 to make it numbers easy, okay? So I've got that calculator open on my phone, and I'll switch over to that now so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, okay? Okay, so here is the 10B2 calculator. So obviously, when you first open it up, okay, it's just a bunch of numbers, right? So when you first open it, it's all zeros. But shortly after that, you can start putting in numbers. So I'm going to put $35,000 in here, and then I put the PV because that puts it in the present value, okay? Then I'm typing in 180. That puts it into how many years or how many months, and then the 12 is a percentage rate. And then you can solve for that by clicking on PMT, the payment. So as you can see, my payment is $420.06 on this scenario, okay? Multiply that by 12, you can see that's $75,000. And then here's a little amortization schedule that actually shows you that, hey, this is an actual mortgage, right? We're doing this for 180 months. So after you scroll over, we can actually see the entire, 180 months, which is 15 years, okay? Now I'll zoom in on this so you can see that, but you can see right there, $75,610.80 is what they're going to end up paying for this property, right? So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, the 10B2 calculator can be your best friend because this actually helps with rent-to-own properties if you want to be the bank. Okay, so hopefully you followed along on that. But that's what I use. I use a 10b2 calculator to figure any payments, whether you're selling it for $20,000 and you're only doing 8% interest, and maybe you're doing it for 120 months. Whatever it is, you can always solve. Just that's the only 4 buttons I use, by the way: the N button, the I/YR, the PV, and the PMT. And then I look at the amortization. So that's exactly how I do it. But so as you can see, it's pretty easy, because people want to live in a nice place, right? My whole goal when I sell my mobile homes on rent to own is to make it safe, clean, and affordable. If I can get those 3 things accomplished, pretty much anybody looking to have their own place will be interested, okay? So these are nice places. I mean, I would live in one of myself if I was single or I was in a bind or whatever. They're decent properties, but they're going to pay $420 plus lot rent, $450 or whatever. So they might be paying $900 a month all in, plus their electricity, because usually that includes water and trash and sewage and that kind of thing, typically in a lot of the mobile home parks. But that's exactly how I do it. I usually, it's kind of my rule. My team knows, if we can get a mobile home in a park for $2,500 or less, we're going to buy it, period. I don't care how bad a shape it's in. We're going to buy the property, and we're going to help that seller out, because usually they're fine with it. They'll almost give them to you. And I actually have had a park give me one before. All I had to do was commit to fixing it up and paying the lot rent every month. They were willing to give me the property because I'm making it nicer to where somebody can actually move into it. So there are those scenarios as well. But you do have to be careful. Make sure that the park, is investor friendly. You got to befriend the manager. It's the same old thing. You gotta just do a little bit of research first, just to make sure that they're not going to give you hassles. A lot of times parks want owner occupied only, which in this case, these properties are owner occupied because I'm selling them on rent to own, and I'm just the bank, right? So that's how I get away with that on those scenarios. But it's really a win-win all the way around. You're winning because you're buying it cheap. The seller's winning because they got rid of a property and don't have to pay lot rent anymore. And then the park is winning because you're making it a beautiful home again to where somebody can move in and get lot rent consistently. And then the end buyer that you're selling it to is winning because they've got a safe, clean, and affordable property to move into. So it's really a win all the way around. But as an investor, I love that scenario because, I paid $5,000 and I'm going to make $75,000 over 15 years. And sure, they may not all stay. They may end up moving out 4 or 5 years later. But that's the beauty of it. They move out and move on. I'm the bank, so I take it back, and I can just sell it on rent to own again. But if they happen to fulfill the entire 15 years, I'm glad because, that just means I have income coming guaranteed for 15 years. So that's awesome to me. But if you do the math on that 420, let me just see how many months it takes to actually recoup that. 420 times 12 months is $5,040. So when you're talking cash on cash return, meaning I put $5,000 cash into it, and to get that cash returned is 12 months later. So in the first year, I have 100% of my money back, and then the next 14 years is 100% profit. I mean, that's pretty significant. $420 a month cash flow for 15 years. I don't know what else you could do to make that kind of money for so little down. So hopefully that was beneficial to you. Hopefully it makes sense to you. If you like that rent to own thing, I can go into more depth in other videos. If you'd like to see that, drop me a comment and let me know, because I definitely would be willing to do that, because that's literally my main strategy on the properties that I own and keep, whether it's houses or mobile homes or whatever. I want to sell on rent to own. I don't want tenants. I live 800 miles away from all my properties, so I sure don't want to be a landlord. And I've done videos on that, on why I don't like being landlords. So if you're interested in that, you drop me a comment and I'll do some videos more specific to rent to own and how do I structure that and all that and everything else. But anyways, if you got value from this, you stuck around this long, please give me a thumbs up. A lot of you watching these videos never ever subscribe, and I don't know why. If you've stuck around this long, please hit the subscribe button. It would help me out greatly. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.